Well, welcome to the Open Gate. At the Open Gate, it's our Beyond the Spotlight videos where we like to highlight the great work that our colleagues and friends are doing. And joining me today is Jenny Stütz Machau, and you are with Voith Hydro, and you're a project manager there. And super excited to hear your story. So thanks for making time for us today.
Thanks, Nancy, for the introduction, and it's good talking to you.
Yeah, and you are a little bit of history for my community is that you and I are actually cousins. Your mom and I are second cousins, and our moms are first cousins. And you are out in Schwäbisch Gmünd area in the Stuttgart area of Germany, if I've got all that correct.
Correct. That's
Yes.
absolutely correct.
So it's really fun to see you today, but we wanted to focus on International Women in Engineering Day, which is June 23rd, and you've had quite the career in engineering, especially working on hydro projects. So just to start us off, curious kind of maybe how you found yourself in this field to begin with.
Yeah, so yeah, that's actually a nice story. I was looking for, let's say, as everybody, I was looking for a place to be able to study and what can you do, basically. And in Germany, we have a program that basically is not a pure theoretical studies, but also is linked with the company where you work
Mm,
for. So you basically not just apply at the university, but you apply also already at your employer. That
mhm,
will then be actually your employer throughout the studies. And Voith was a company that is like in the area where I live, and they have a super exciting portfolio with products, also high engineering
mhm,
focus, and in different fields. So they have paper technologies, they have Voith Turbo, which is rather focusing on other parts like rail services and like a little bit more of the automotive sector.
mhm,
And then they have Voith Hydro, which is, let's say, the ones that are equipping the hydropower plants with
mhm.
turbines and generators. And me being a young, let's say, girl, I was fascinated from that from the beginning onwards because back then there was already the, let's say, the renewable sector, and we knew that renewable energy is going to
Mhm.
be important and also rising. Still is the case several years later.
Yes.
And so I applied and I got lucky, and I did my studies there in the field of industrial engineering.
Mhm,
So it's basically a little bit of a mixture. My
mhm,
background from school is rather like in the economic sector, and I
mm,
was curious to find something else, like
mhm.
to enhance my knowledge. And then the engineering aspect of the studies was exciting for me because I was like, yeah, this opens new possibilities,
Yeah,
just to learn, and
yeah.
that's basically where it all started.
Yeah. So was this in what would be the equivalent of our college, or was this already when you were in our like our high school equivalent?
When are you in high school? Like for us, it's
It's
we're
18
going
or
into,
less?
yeah, we're going into studies with like 18, 19.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was about the time you found this match at that age. So that's fairly young to know you want to go into engineering. Did you kind of know even before that that yeah, I want to be doing something like this?
No, absolutely not. I was, yeah, I was rather getting there because of curiosity and
Yeah.
let's say the wish to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
That's the drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, because well, and I know a little bit that, your family has a business that is, well, metalworking and a
Yeah.
very hands-on kind of creation of things. Did you work in the family business? Did that kind of tie into this interest at all, or?
Actually, I think it's not the main reason. Of course, that always gives, let's say, the perspective and gives an insight, but I think it is not why I'm like ending here, but
Mhm.
what is now the case, actually, the experiences from the family business, also from my father's business, is really helping me because a lot
Mm,
of similarities arise. things that you have heard, you can then basically bring into the business life
Yeah.
and vice versa. So the
Yeah.
experiences pay off.
Yes, yes. Was there a kind of a defining moment in your studies when you realized, yeah, this is for me? And anything that you
Yeah,
remember that really,
I think yes. I think yes. I think in Voith Hydro specifically, and also in
hmm
the hydropower world, there's a moment where you're getting excited about
hmm
what you're doing, and you're like just so happy to be here because it's something good you're doing, yeah.
hmm
And it I think when I was in the US, also during my studies, I also had the chance to work abroad in the US, in York, Pennsylvania, where
hmm
we, as my company Voith, also has a subsidy. So, and this was, I think, a very nice moment. You get to know, let's say, a different culture and this business from a different angle. And
hmm
then I remember the first time I've been into a power plant in the US, and it was just huge. And you see the entire retrofit and refurbishment of the station.
hmm
And they were basically on this day when I was there, they were lifting the most heaviest part
hmm
of the entire assembly. So that's a moment that is like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
So you're just impressed, and that does never wash off, yeah, until
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. And well, and I understand you've done a lot of international work. I mean, you've been all over the world in many places. And so how has that perspective kind of
Yeah.
helped you in your career?
Oh, also, so yes, you're right. I was in the US, as I said, during the studies already, and then later when I was already, let's say, closing the studies, I was in Canada,
Mhm,
working there. They have, of course, similarities to the US American market, but it's not the same.
mhm,
And then I also had a chance to work with my colleagues in China, in Shanghai.
mhm,
So it's interesting to see the different market requirements, the different, let's say, also customer requirements.
mhm,
Um, yeah, so there's slight differences also in the norms in the US is
mhm,
different than, let's say, the other regions. It
mhm.
starts with measuring, like you go to a
Oh,
site and
yeah.
you check, let's say, what is basically how wide is the entrance. So as a German, you get really confused when you ask about how many feet in inches this is. I'm
Mhm.
like, I can tell you this is about 4 meters. So that is of
Right.
course something you have to adjust. But yeah, it's also fun to
Yeah.
work with different cultures and different, let's say, perspectives. So that's was always a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it sounds like, and maybe you can help me understand a little bit of like your role as a project manager. You're not strictly doing calculations, and you're dealing with the customers and other colleagues. So you kind of have to have a wide range of skills, I would think, in that role. Is that
Yeah, I
correct?
think yes, I think that's something also that has to be mentioned. Like being an engineer is not always meaning that traditional you're going to do the calculations you're doing, let's say the drawings you're doing,
hmm
part lists or whatever. So that is not the case. And I think over the years, also the company recognized, I recognized my strength in the one or the other field.
Yeah.
And so I started in, let's say, the area of sales.
hmm
And even for bigger projects, that already is some kind of project management,
hmm
to just create an offer for a specific case, because there's a lot of clarification ahead of when you can start planning phases. So that already is a small project to manage itself until it is even going to be a contract. And then later on, I transferred then to the project management, then
hmm
really in the execution phase,
Yeah.
which then is a different perspective. As so really the doing is then also a different challenge. What is always good is you are supported by a great team,
Yeah.
and that's also required because we have very, let's say, diverse departments and also their capabilities are totally different. As also in the field of electrical, you see something totally different than in the mechanical world, and vice versa. So it is always going to be a team effort. And as a project manager, it was very handy to have, let's say, the engineering background to be able to work into a topic as much as you can understand that you basically bring out what is important for a customer negotiation, for
Yeah.
basically also alignments with different functions and so on. So yeah, I would say that is also the type of the studies that I
Yeah.
did. It's
Yeah.
like not deep diving.
Right.
It's more being able to connect, being able to
Yes.
build bridges between separate functions and
Hmm.
make sure that
Yes.
everybody is aligned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very unique skill set, I think, and a broad set of skills. And did you have any mentors along the way or any people that really kind of you remember that really kind of helped you in your career? And
Also absolutely, and I'm not saying you have to be lucky, but it's
mhm,
always good if you have somebody that is convinced of your skill set and
mhm,
that is then also meeting you again in different functions or in different regions even.
mhm,
So in the US, I met a mentor, you would say. So he was just there. We were not directly in contact, just on the surface. But some years later, he remembered me, and then he was saying, "Oh, she's now here working with us in Germany." And I was like, "Yeah, she is." So I was then transferred to his department in effect, and he gave me relatively early a huge responsibility
uh-huh,
that he wouldn't have done if we wouldn't have met earlier in a business context and
mhm.
somehow figured out that this is working well. He can rely on my skills, and so that was, I think, one of the biggest, yeah, examples on how
Yeah,
that went
that's
well and
awesome.
how you were supported by somebody that
Oh,
have seen you in an earlier business context. Yeah.
for sure. What a great, yeah, opportunity. And sounds like a life or a long-term mentorship. That's great. And yeah, you had the opportunity to see your skills in action, it sounds like. So that's
Yeah.
that building a trust. And well, there's a I don't know if it's in the States, we have a phrase we call imposter syndrome. And I don't know if you hear of that or have heard of that before, but a lot of people here will identify with the sense of, I don't feel, even though people think I'm competent, I'm feeling like I'm an imposter and or a fraud, even though and it's very common among high achievers. And so I'm curious, and you seem very confident to me, so I'm curious if that has ever impacted you, that sense of imposter syndrome or um
So first, this imposter syndrome also made it to Germany, so we know it. um, yes. So the I think yes, I think everybody that is in this area can understand this feeling at some point. I personally have to say you're always trying to be a little bit more humble about your skills than maybe necessary. Maybe that's also a trait of a lot of women
yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
Not wanting to generalize, but yes, that is
Hmm.
sometimes the case. For myself, I always was really well recognized by the peers, the colleagues, my
Hmm.
bosses, and everybody. So I think yeah, that was the reason why this wasn't so predominant, because they gave me really a lot of assurance that what I'm doing is a great work and is a great job. And also at that relatively young age that I let's say took over the responsibilities. So yes, at some point you know the feeling, but I think it has not defined my way of working because I was very well supported.
Yes, yeah. Well, and that humility can go a long ways too, just recognizing that it's not holding us back, right? And yeah,
Correct.
yeah. Well, what Yeah, again, as women in engineering, I think in the States, I think it was last number I saw was like around 16%, might be a little higher now, but I'm imagining it's something similar in Germany. So there's not a lot of women. So has that produced any particular challenges or not so much these days?
No, I think we are working in a also it depends. Also so yes, when you're working in a more, let's say, conservative environment,
Yeah.
I think there were times where this is like perceived not so well, or you have, let's say, a harder entry.
Hmm.
In a big company that is actually looking to just find the best new students and is open to that. So I got lucky because that was never an issue. They were always happy to have, let's say, people that are interested in this world, and I didn't. Um, I didn't perceive it to be a big issue. So that was good, even though I know in a more classical way,
Hmm.
you as being a young woman, yes, that is viewed very critically, and you have to prove yourself a little bit harder, specifically when they don't know you. So
Right.
the first few contacts with a new person that is not used to that, yes, that is more challenging. But also you have advantages because you stand out. It's not, you remain in the heads of the people. So
Hmm.
that's also on a good side, let's say,
Hmm. Hmm. Did
a
you find
benefit.
did you find that drove you to work harder or change what you did in any way? That that sense that
Sometimes yes, sometimes
yeah.
yes. Maybe of course it's a motivation, and you want to show that you're exactly as capable
Hmm.
as somebody that is maybe just a different gender.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. What are some of the qualities or skills that you had that you think contributed the most to your success in this field?
Hmm. Yeah, I think rather I'm a quite communicative and open person, and
Hmm.
that is helping a lot. Also, just to
Yes.
to talk to the people, to also explain where you're coming from, what your thoughts are, what you're intending to do, and if you can articulate that in a nice way, and you need to adapt it for the men because
Hmm.
women tend to say too much. This was also something that I had to adjust.
Yes.
Um, and to learn that, let's say, saying less or saying what you want to say in less sentences is helping them. No, but in general, that's
Yeah.
that's a learning, and I think that also went then well, as soon as you understand, like, focus on
Yeah.
what you're about to say, and then explain what you're about to do, and then it works. Also, this is
Yeah.
the learning that I have out of that.
Yes. Well, and what I'm taking from that too is just that ability to observe and adjust our behavior for people. That's a powerful skill, I think, that's often underrated, right? That
Yes,
I
I
think
think
as a
adaptability in some
adaptability.
cases, that's
Yes.
the, yes, that's also key because you're working, as you said, I was working with very different also cultural backgrounds.
Yes.
So it is good to be able to tune your normal style a little bit and adapt to what is required. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Is there any, so you've been at this quite a while now. Is there any success that just you really are particularly proud of? I know we just talked about humility earlier, but hey, let's
Yeah, I think yes, for sure. As in a day-to-day operations, there's always like yeah, let's say highlights that
hmm.
you're able to celebrate. So I'm always happy. For example, I found the good and the best manufacturing location.
Hmm.
And at the beginning, everybody was skeptical if that is the right move. And I had a very close connection with this manufacturing location. and even now, and they finished below budget in time, and everybody was super happy. But I had to fight that this is going to be the right solution. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a like a day-to-day business, let's say, highlight,
Yeah.
where I'm proud of, and it in the end paid off that you fought for your idea, and
Yeah.
that's
Ah,
it.
so so it was kind of the pushing and fighting for something that you believed in, and then you were able to get some success from that. That was
Exactly, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good job.
Yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, persistence, that's 90% of the battle, I always like to say. So we persist, but
absolutely, you're right.
hmm well, do you have any words of encouragement, Jenny, for other young women thinking about entering engineering? What would you say?
Yeah, so absolutely. I think they should be brave and
Mhm.
not be afraid of, let's say, the studies, or that you're not able to understand, to follow, or something. So it is possible, and of course it's going to be hard work. And if you're yeah, but you have to learn, and you have to do that. And it doesn't mean that at the end you're like with your, maybe you struggle in math. Okay, fine, but it doesn't mean that if you're like a finished engineer, you have day-to-day contact with this type of, let's say, work that bothered you in your studies. So I think even here is persistence, and then also the hope that you are going to find your role in the engineering world
Yeah.
or in the business world, where the field of your expertise is going to be valued.
Mhm.
So I think maybe even if there are hard times, I would say be persistent, and be, let's say, pushing through
Mhm.
to get
Yes.
to where you want to be. That's I
Yes.
think the best advice I can give.
Great advice. And what has been the biggest reward for you in this your time in this field? What has been most rewarding for you?
I think the most, or the biggest reward is if you're closing a phase, if you're closing a project, or if you're yeah, maybe also dropping out of a project, and at the end everybody is happy with your performance, is
Mhm.
happy that he was able to work with me in a team, and is sad to see me leave.
Mhm.
So that is even though sometimes it's sad, but
Mhm.
that always gave me like the biggest joy. Yeah, so even
Yeah.
when you're leaving with a good impression, you're leaving with a lot of contacts that are just, that I was happy to work with, and this feeling was mutual, and this is, I think, the biggest reward.
Ah, well, what a great way to summarize our conversation. And Jenny, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I loved your insights, and hopefully our community will too. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the interview. It was good talking to you, Nancy.
You too.
All right.